August meeting of the Osawatomie City Council on August, this is September 10th, that's right. August 27th, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in Memorial Hall. Madam Clerk, will do a roll call.
Councilmember Sheffield.
Here.
Councilmember Basic.
Here.
Councilmember Dean.
Here.
Councilmember Dickinson.
Here.
Councilmember Hennis.
Here.
Councilmember Bratton.
Here.
Councilmember Phillips. Here. Councilmember Caldwell. Here. Mayor Hanson.
Here. If you'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for invocation.
States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we humbly ask your blessing upon the city council meeting tonight. We ask for your wisdom and guidance for both the members of the council and for the community members here tonight. Lord, we also want to lift up to you tonight all of our first responders that help to keep us safe. We ask that you would protect them as they protect us. We also pray that the new school year has begun, that your blessing will be upon all of our schools, administrators, teachers, coaches, staff, and all of the students. We ask for a great school year and for a safe school year. May your hand protect our schools and our community. We thank you for all of these that are here tonight to have their voices heard, and for those here to listen to those voices. But Lord, would you help us tonight to honor you in the way that we treat each other? Whether we agree or disagree with one another, may we be willing to listen to one another and treat each other with compassion and respect. May we do as your word commands us, and Lord, love our neighbors as ourselves. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We'll move on to consent agenda. Consent agenda items will be acted upon in one motion unless a council member requests an item be removed for discussion and separate action. Mayor, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented. Okay. Got a motion by Councilman Dickinson, a second by Councilman Shasteen to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any other questions or comments from council? Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Sheffield.
Aye.
Councilmember Basic.
Aye.
Councilmember Dean.
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember Hennis.
Aye.
Councilmember Bratton.
Here.
Councilmember Phillips. Aye. Councilmember Caldwell. Aye.
Motion carries. We will move on to the next item, which is comments from the public. Citizen participation will be limited to 3 minutes. Please stand to be recognized when we call your name. Brett, do you have the list? Okay, let's start with Jeff Dorset. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Jeff Dorset, 109 Shady Lane. I'm here to use my 3 minutes to discuss the significance of the ejection highway, which is later on our agenda, and the development of the Osawatomie Ambassadors, which is actually a spinoff of the Tourism Commission that the City Council has appointed. The Osawatomie Ambassadors is about 6 months old, and it's open to all who love Osawatomie its history and to want to welcome the visitors and inform locals about the history. Initially, about 10 or 11 people responded. We had a 2.5-hour crash course on Osawatomie history, about 10 brochures and homework to be given, and a good discussion. We've been present so far at the John Brown birthday, another Union, John Brown Jamboree, like the Memorial Hall grand opening, and have given tours to new school employees about Osawatomie. So why did this happen? In spring of 2023, the Kansas City Half Marathon was down at mile 0. I went down to check it out, and there were 200 to 300 people down there with nobody from Osawatomie to welcome or greet or So I, in my very bashful self, introduced myself to 25 people, directed them down to Whistle Stop and La Hacienda. And I thought, we need to not miss opportunities like this. So Ambassador was born. So what are we promoting? We're promoting the Potawatomi Trail of Death, which was the forced displacement of 900 Potawatomi, bleeding Kansas in our very important history of the Battle of Osawatomie State Hospital. This is Rowan history. We had a 2.5-hour lecture by Jim Brown and Ron Hobenstein about the railroad history. Teddy Roosevelt is giving accident speech. 35,000 people here that gave possibly the most important speech of the 20th century, which introduced such radical things as child safety, work safety, 40-hour work week, Social Security, national health care. It was important enough that a Democratic president came to the red state and gave a speech 101 years later on the same topic. Finally, the Jefferson Highway. Jefferson Highway was the first north and south highway that went from New Orleans to Winnipeg, Canada, and called the Palm to Pines Highway. I don't know if you all have seen in the last year, there's now a sign on Highway 169 and 160 right by Tractor Supply. So these are signs that are designating the Jefferson Highway. I've been in contact with Roger Bell, who's the president from Muskogee, Oklahoma, in Joplin right now. Next month, they're having a convention with several hundred people coming from the north and the south. He says we have very significant findings here. We have the Triple Arch Bridge of the Potawatomi, the Silent Bridge, and the original red brick surface. We had one of the few original original gas stations down by Home Depot. So the goal is to get people here, designate where these signs are, and bring more people to attraction. He said people want photo ops, signs, and information. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Next, we'll go to Brad Henderson.
Doesn't the pipe usually go first?
Do I?
Don't you usually ask that? So who wants to go first?
I think he left.
Oh.
Yeah. Brad, I was thinking that, but I watched him walk out, so I was pretty sure he left.
That ain't better. You still can't hear me? Thanks, Lord. I'm not up here saying I'm against the Jefferson Highway or thinking about it and everything else, but me and my family, for 70-some years, and nobody's really heard of it until the last 6 months. And I don't know, do we want to publicize that it's a historic highway, open shape that it's in? Like, you guys can't meet each other. It's a one-way road in spots. And I called in and asked for potholes fixed, and they were fixed, and I called back in and thanked them. And it only lasts for long. And like at the bottom where the culvert is, goes under the road, I'm guilty of destroying city property because when the rain gets bad enough, I ride my pickup. Like on the shoulders, so the water got somewhere to go. The road is lower than the shoulders. It all runs to the bottom, that's where it sets. In the time, it's the sheet ice. Do you want to spend the money on the signs before? I'm not saying anything better. I know that's part of it. Making it a historical deal. They can drive it 30 mile an hour zone. Can't be 30 mile an hour. Much of it. And then like, let's say a hospital where the water lines in. I drove down and looked at it. All the swirls on this historical highway. Brick road. They get pushed into the blade. And if that was my street, might be irritated. That's what's going on. I mean, I got a picture of it. Anybody can listen now, it. That's what's happening. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Like I said, I'm not against making it historic. It's cool. Nobody was historic. Nobody that I know it was historic until 6 months ago. When everybody started talking about the big thing. But yeah, it may not find out another night. It'd really be cool. That's the reason I'm here. That is my 2 cents for calling the push on the bridge.
Roy Harvey.
Good evening, council members and mayor. The citizens of Osawatomie followed the process. We wrote an ordinance, went through the required county council review, collected the signatures, submitted our petition, and it has been certified. There is something very important to consider now. The same petition we have was shared with Emporia and El Dorado, and both prevailed in district court challenges. The 13th district court ruled the petition legislative, and the district court judges of both cities ruled the citizens' initiatives can move forward to the ballot, and their city council voted in both cities to put them on the ballot. Those decisions support what we have been saying from the beginning. Citizens can use the initiative process to establish legislative policy concerning these massive hyperscale data centers or AI factories. Our ordinance doesn't name Alpro, Project Catalyst, or any particular property. It establishes a general rule for high-impact data centers throughout Osawatomie. There's also another serious issue the city needs to address. The city's redevelopment agreement with Alpro depended on approximately 116 acres previously conveyed to the city by the state of Kansas. The legislative language is clear on the quitclaim deeds, which I have certified copies of. Quote, in the event that any portion of the above described real estate has not been used for economic development by July 1st, 2026, then all rights, title, and interest in such portion of such real estate shall revert to the state of Kansas. End quote. No amendment was recorded by that date, and as of today, there is still no amendment recorded. The Kansas statute provides no express authority for a late amendment to retroactively undo that reversion. Because of this, the city cannot simply fix this after the fact. It may require new legislative authority and lawful reconvenes. The city should explain how it can continue relying on a redevelopment agreement dependent on land that it no longer owns, according to that legislative language, and the redevelopment agreement should be rendered invalid because of these facts. Emporia citizens, led by Jay, fought for their petition and the right to put it to a vote and won in court, and their city agreed with them. El Dorado citizens, led by Danica, fought for their petition and right to put it for a vote and won in court, and their city agreed with them. We are not asking for you to agree with us. We're requesting the city follow the law, respect the petition process, and either adopt the ordinance or place it on the ballot. Let the people of Osawatomie have their say in the legal process. Thank you.
Yeah, Paul.
Thank you for letting me talk. Start off saying, here we are standing. Yes, see. So here we are standing in the presence of greatness of John Brown. And within, we too are standing up against the slavery and tyranny of mankind. For the past several months, we have brought evidence and reports that these data centers are the harbinger of tyranny, enslavement, and death of our communities, country, and planet. My wife had been on the Miami County Economic Development Committee. She was the president of the committee. Many corporations had come to the area ready to build. Both of these companies would have had less impact on our lives than the data centers. And every single one of them were rejected. Why were they rejected? It's because the community did not want Osawatomie to lose their identity and become part of the urban sprawl. My uncle grew up under the thumb of tyranny and enslavement in Nazi-occupied France. At age 13, he grew up a movie theater and killed 37 Nazi officers. Even at that young age, he realized that he was fighting for the soul of mankind. Do you not realize we are doing the same? And why aren't you? Data centers are not our savior. There is only one savior. His, her name goes by Allah, God, and Jesus, and the Great Spirit. Alcoa and other data centers, Alcoa and other data center contractors target small, rural, depressed communities, not to help us, but to line their pockets with gold. And in this case, the gold includes the land, the air, the water, and the sweat of generations that came before us. In this room, you see MAGA, you see progressives, you see Democrats, all working together in fear that the city council is willing to sacrifice Osawatomee's future. You have a chance to stand here with us and defend against this arbitrary death. History is waiting for your answers. So please, make a decision. Help us protect our community. Thank you.
I don't think Polly Plain made it. She said she may or may not make it. So,
If someone has
Polly,
please.
no, no. Troy, it's the same thing when your son tried to speak for you, we don't play favoritism. Everybody knows how we do. So, all right, that's all the citizen comments that we have. So we'll move on to presentation, proclamations, and appointments. It's Constitution Week, so I believe we have Ms. Lincoln.
Thank you for having me. I'm Renee Slinger, and I am the American chapter of Daughters of American Revolution region. And I'm also the state PAR Constitution Week chair. And I'm here today to promote awareness of our Constitution. Constitution Week was passed into final Congress unanimously in 1955 and was signed into law in 1956. So it is law, public law 915. And what we do is we promote the Constitution during month of August to council meetings. And then in September, we go into the schools in several counties. And we've been doing this for 13 years. This is my 14th year. And so we really enjoy it. I do want to say, and I just want to ask everyone that is here in this town to please contact Trojan Elementary teachers, 5th grade teachers, because for the last 2 years, I have not been able to be invited into the school, even if it's for 30 minutes. I do 30 minutes to an hour. And I give a great presentation, show a children's video that's really cute. The 5th graders would love it. And it's only a 10-minute video. And I just feel that we really are missing out on our Constitution and Bill of Rights, which I feel all schools should have that opportunity for their children and their students. So anyway, I just ask everyone to contact the school. I have sent several emails, including to the superintendent and the principal, and I just have not gotten any replies. I did get a reply from the principal, from the superintendent, and he did say that it was really up to the Trojan Elementary School. So I guess that's where we would need to go. But I can't do any more. It'll be up to the citizens here in Osawatomie to contact the school if they want their children. And I'm sure they're getting taught in American history. I just don't know how much of the Constitution and Bill of Rights that they are actually learning. And this is a problem, not just in this town, but in the state of Kansas. And getting more American history into our schools. But anyway, I would really appreciate that. And thank you very much for being here. And Mayor, I would love it if you want to read the proclamation, take the vote, and then we can take the picture. And I do have hands. You want me to hand them out now?
That's fine. Get ready to read the proclamation and you can hand them out. I was doing that, I guess. Or if you want to wait until after Lawrence is done.
Proclamation issued by the mayor, city council.
Whereas September 17, 2026 marks the 239th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas that it's fitting and proper to afford official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through September 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, Nick Hampton, Mayor of the City of Osawatomie, does hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through September 23rd, 2026 as Constitution Week. And he urges all citizens to reaffirm the ideals that the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. Proclaimed this 27th day of August, 2026, Nick Hampton, Mayor, City of Osawatomie. We need a motion by council to authorize the signing of the proclamation.
I'll move to approve the proclamation.
Second.
We got a motion by Councilman Hennis and a second by Council Lady Caldwell to approve the authorization of signing the proclamation of the Constitution. Any other questions or comments from the council? Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Shafter.
Aye.
Councilmember Mason.
Aye.
Councilmember Dean.
Aye.
Councilmember Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Hennis.
Aye.
Councilmember Bratton.
Aye.
Councilmember Phillips. Aye. Councilmember Caldwell. Aye.
Motion carries. So we'll take a little second here, we'll sign the proclamation. Then we can, as a council, take a picture.
Okay. You want me to pass these down? Does anyone want one?
Yeah, well, I think I've still got one. I've got one. I've still got mine.
Anyone else? We all working together?
Yep.
So got calls.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's like, thank you, Ms. Licker. Move on to assigning delegates to the LKM Annual Conference in Wichita. I know I will be there. Florence will be there. You'll be there Saturday at the end. Okay, and Brett. Probably two of us. Okay. I'll do it.
I've got a good job race that weekend.
Pick somebody else, you pick two of us. Make the voting delegates.
I move that we have Brett Lindy and Mary Hanson as our voting delegates.
Kevin.
Chastity as the alternate for the LKU annual conference in Wichita.
Second. Motion by Council Lady Philippin, second by Councilman Masick to appoint Brett and myself as the voting delegates and Kevin as the alternate. Any other questions or comments from council? Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Chastain.
Aye.
Councilmember Basic.
Aye.
Councilmember Dean.
Aye.
Councilmember Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Jimenez.
Aye.
Councilmember Bryant. Councilmember Philippin. Aye. Councilmember Caldwell.
Motion carries. We'll move on to public hearing. We have a public hearing on our 2027 budget. Do we want to present the budget and then open the hearing?
We can get the passage done comments first and then wrap it up in the presentation.
Just thought we might. So we'll open for public hearing on the 2027 budget. Anybody that would like to speak about the budget? That's the second time. If there's anybody from the public that would like to speak about the budget. Open the hearing at 6:20.
Jay,
Yeah.
Jay, I'm not here to speak on democracy. I'm sorry.
We had comments from the public earlier. This is not the time.
It's not about-
Okay, it's not about the budget.
So I think.
Sir. This is not the time for that.
We're going to talk about the budget.
We're going to talk about the
Yeah,
budget.
let's talk about the budget.
Okay.
The budget, I think that we need to be cautious with, the budget this year. I think that we need to be looking at other ways to use our resources and our money. And I think that we need to not depend on outside influences to fill the gaps in the budget. Because it's about being a good steward of our community. Would you agree with that, Mayor? About being a good steward. And the same thing applies for a lot of things. I wasn't going to talk about what we talk about, but I just hope you guys do the right things. I'm from Emporia, and I believe in democracy. And I want you guys to stand up for all these people out here that are counting you guys to get right. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak about the budget? I'll ask a third and final time if there's anybody from the public that would like to speak about the budget. Okay, we'll close the budget hearing at 6:28. Now, I guess we'll do the presentation of the budget.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to give the council a quick update on our progress and our goals. We've right up into the high level overview of the 2027 proposed budget. This past year, we continued to clean the community up by identifying structures that are in need of repair or demolition. We continue to enforce nuisance codes by first through education and then secondly enforcement. We use a variety of communication to try to accomplish that. The Swenson building is in dire need of attention. While it's proving to be more difficult than expected to redevelop that project. They have been awarded historic tax credits and they are planning on applying for a moderate income housing grant this fall. And if they're successful in that, then they will start construction shortly after the first of the year. Brewers Automotive has seen a significant improvement with the replacement of all of their sheet metal on the exterior of their building. And there's other businesses along 6th Street that have also continued to follow in the city's leadership with rebuilding so many different streets in our community. The 6th Street Business Program that was approved as part of the 2026 budget adoption has been handed out. We've received 2 applications thus far for that. In terms of replacing streets, the 14 mil increase in asset sales tax that was approved 4 years ago has continued to be utilized to not only rebuild some certain streets to full depth, and then but we've also been doing mill and overlays the last couple of years, most recently Brown Avenue from First to Sixth, because it was experiencing significant reflective and alligator cracking on the surface. And then also Pacific from 6th to 12th. That street was also experiencing some significant alligator cracking. But more importantly, that is the shared use path. That's the bicycle boulevard. That's a part of our transportation alternatives grant, which I'll talk about in a little bit. It didn't make sense to put the share road that we have on Pacific Avenue on old asphalt and then turn around and mill it again in the following year. So we have to repaint the share roads. So that was a big undertaking. It was one of our wider streets in the community. In terms of our infrastructure, water treatment plant will go to its final design. It's been submitted for review and approval with KDHE. On the electric conversion, we're continuing to work on the conversion to the higher voltage, higher distribution voltage. Currently, we're working on converting circuit 5. This 2027 budget keeps operating transfers from utility funds to 5%, which is our cap in our financial policy, and we treat each of our utilities as if it was as a privately owned utility, and the 5% reflects a franchise that we take off of that for operation expenses. The only caveat to that is the water fund. 4 years ago, when the council approved the water treatment plant, one of the things we said that needed to happen was we needed to stop operational transfers out of the water treatment fund to help pay for the new water project. On the economic development front, we had 13 new home permits that were issued in 2025. We've issued so far this year, we've got 4 more ready to pick up in City Hall, so that would make a total of 8 that have been issued in 2026. The 5th Street Terrace, we actually expect up to 4 more this year, knowing the other builders in the town and what their plans are. So 5th Street Terrace construction will continue. The loft on 6th Street is complete and open. 525 Main is nearly complete. There's a new real estate office, Lake Realty. On 6th Street, there's a new bank going in, where Team Bank or Great Southern Bank used to be. It had been vacant or used as storage for quite a number of years, but it's getting new life breathed into it as we speak. 510 Main, that project was disappointing. It did not go where we had hoped it would go. 510 needs to be demolished. The RFP is ready to be issued to prospective bidders. Once 510 is down, we will reissue that RFP and start the process over. In the Northland development, there's a lot that's been said about what's going on in the Northland, what's proposed for the Northland. But from my standpoint, this opportunity is the biggest opportunity to come to the city of Osawatomie in the 20 years that I've lived here. It will fundamentally change this community for the better and for generations to come. On the soft infrastructure front, the KDOT Transportation Alternatives Grant starts in September next month. The reconnaissance survey for the consideration of John Brown Park being brought into the National Park Service. The survey is complete, it's still being reviewed and awaiting, and we are awaiting the report. The new clubhouse, golf course has been designed, the architectural, phase 2 of the architectural work has been completed. The next step on that project is to figure out $272,000 to pay for the design. We don't know where that's going to come from yet. If we're not going to have the money to build it yet, it doesn't make a lot of sense to design it and have a misplaced post change. So we'll continue to work on financing that project. Some of my concerns and goals: retention of existing employees, compensation of our frontline employees needs to keep pace with our neighbors. While we don't have a lot of turnover, I don't want to see that start to happen. We've got a good group of people working for our community, and I'm proud of them. But I want to. We need to keep our utilities full by ensuring utility rates keep pace with inflation. Growth in new construction needs to increase or keep pace with the rate of inflation. We need to continue to encourage construction on infill lots. So the backside of the condemnations, while it's not always easy, the backside of that is those properties get new life breathed into them. A couple of 3 properties that in the last 2 years already have new homes permitted for them, or soon to have new homes permitted for them. There's 3 lots that we have out right now. We just approved to issue that a couple of meetings ago. Those bids are due on September 14th. So hopefully the meeting after that, we'll have those for the council to consider. Redeveloping our business corridors, as I mentioned before, the law on 6th, 544 Main, which has been done a couple of years now, 525 and 519. Both equipment buildings continue to see improvements. I mentioned earlier Brewers, and then 500 and 510 Main. Some of the things we need to continue to keep our focus on is finishing the projects that we've started. The water treatment plant distribution project will break ground this coming spring or winter, shortly after the first of the year. And then the TA grant, which I just mentioned, will start next month. The next thing we'll need to start looking at, though, is what are our next big goals? The community has mentioned multiple times on social media that they would like to see a bicycle pedestrian overpass. The overpass that we currently have is not permitted for bicycles and pedestrians. It's undersized. Loaded trucks cannot go over it. It's questionable if we can send fire trucks over it. Concrete trucks cannot go over it. The school bus is questionable as to whether it should go over it. So in reality, if we don't build a bicycle pedestrian overpass, we really should look at building a new overpass with bicycle pedestrian accommodations. Another project that we've talked about, at least in the 20 years since I've been here, it's been a dream of the community to restore the Asylum Bridge going over the Merritt City at First Street, to make that into a shared use path up to the state hospital. That's a significant expense as well. The library expansion, the new clubhouse, additional pools in the basement of the streets, all of those things would require us to make funds. And I'm not eager to be hyperbolic, and I'm trying to be hyperbolic, but these projects get infinitely more difficult, if not impossible to do without a significant rebalancing of our tax base and significant outside investment. So going back into the more detail of the budget, the sources of revenues for the 2027 budget, 50% of it comes from utilities. Only 15% comes from property taxes, but that's the 15% everybody feels. Sales taxes, 10%, and then everything else, the other 25% is miscellaneous fees, charges, and interfund transfers. In terms of where those funds are used, the biggest expense is the contractual services. The biggest contractual service that we have is the purchase and generation of electricity. The next largest expense is 27% on the personnel, salaries and benefits. Debt service is 13%, and interfund transfers are maybe 10% of the expenses. Everything else, commodities, capital outlay, the non-appropriated dollars that we reserve for the following year, for the 2028 year, that's the remaining 20%. Among our property tax levy funds, we have 3 of those. It's the general fund, it's the bond and interest fund, it's the employee benefits fund. You'll see in 2025, we ended the year with $40,000 under budget. You'll see that the proposal or the approved budget for 2026 was $4.4 million. The proposed budget for 2027 is 4.8. That increase is not an increase of 10% in spending. That's an increase in the proposed budgeted carryover balance. Our financial policy is one of our goals that we try to shoot for, and to build good financial stability for the community is to have at least a 25% fund balance carried over from one year to the next. The general fund, 25% of the general fund balance would be approximately $1 million. We carried over at the end of 2025, 281,000. So we've got another $700,000 we've got to build up in what I would consider the rainy day fund in a worst case scenario. If we have another flood, we have some other emergency, those dollars are important to have so we can take care of initially while we wait for the aid that ultimately comes when there's a state or a federal disaster declaration. On the employee benefits side, our fund balance in this fund is good. It's 30%. The employee benefits fund only funds the employee benefits for those employees that do not work for either a utility or a government. The those enterprise funds, those employees, their benefits, get paid for out of them. And then lastly, the bond and interest fund, this fund balance is up to approximately 10%. But this is where all of our debt runs through. And that's, we're committed, to retire that debt with property taxes and a big chunk of it. The rest of it is, pledged under either water revenues, sewer revenues, or, electric revenues. The next page, bond and interest fund, you'll see that's the list of all our outstanding debt. You'll see the order in which they are retired. You'll see 2012, the refunding issue that was done in 2012. That actually rolls off our books in 2027. And then the next one that rolls off will be our newest bond, which will be the 2022A, which was issued just 4 years ago. That was only a 10-year note. The following page shows that's just a line graph of where our outstanding principal balances are in the course of the next 20 years. The next page is the transfers out of utilities. And the one thing I want to point out is that this is the total transfers. These are not only operating transfers, but they're also debt service transfers. And then the very final page is well, I guess it's not the final page, the final graph in the presentation. This will be made available on the city's website if someone wants to stop at City Hall tomorrow or in the coming days to pick up the copy. Will be available. Then that second to last page, the red line is assessed value. Blue line is the mill levy. Our mill levy's been coming down, and our valuations have been going up. Important takeaways from the 2027 budget that we proposed. Number one, it's a revenue neutral budget. We're continuing to focus on rebuilding our fund balances, like I mentioned earlier. This budget has 0% cost of living, but it does have a 3% merit increase. We are planning to pay off a portion of the temporary notes that we issued in 2023. Those come due in 2027. If you remember right, those 10 notes were $2.5 million for water mains, $2.5 million for 6th Street, and $1.7 million for trails. We'll be able to send most of the trails money back because the cost did not come in where we expected it. And we've got enough money built up, we'll be able to pay off $2.5 million water note or almost pay that off. The value of the mill for 2027, it actually went down from 2026, 42,026 in 2026 to 40,765. And I want to explain to the council the reason for that. When we got our estimated assessed valuation in June of 2025 to build the 2026 budget, that estimated assessed valuation showed the value of the mill was $42,000. Included in that was the solar. Evergy had not gotten their tax exemption approved by the Board of Tax Appeals yet, and it did not get approved until after the budget was set. So we took a little bit of a hit, but we're able to absorb it because we have some of what I mentioned earlier, fund balances, help absorb some of that. So that's why you're seeing a decrease in the assessed valuation from last year to this year. But if you look at where assessed valuation was in 2025, we're still well above that. So proposed budget of 2027 is 18.9 million. In 26, if the total approved budget was 18.3, that's a 3% increase from one year to the next. The new water plant will break ground early next year. We'll continue to focus on Fifth Street Terrace. We'll renew our efforts to find developers for 500, 510 Main, Hickory Valley, and the Indian Ridge properties. And then the last thing we've got to mention is what we're going to do next year in terms of mill and overlay. There's still a number of streets with decent curves, but they have surfaces that need to be refreshed, we'll call it. The list of those streets are the candidates: Carr Avenue from 1st to 6th, all of the streets around Lone Vista, Walnut from 7th to 12th, Main Street from 12th to 18th,
O'Neill from Main to Mill, and then Brown Circle Drive. If there's others that pop up, we will certainly add that to the list. We're not going to be able to do all of those next year. I think we all know that. We'll do as many as we can with the money we have available, and then we'll do some more in 2020. And with that, I'll answer any questions that the council might have.
It's a little bit larger, transfer out of the, utilities this year, it's supposed to do
The law, so if you look at the, so in the packet, which is available on the city's website, there's a schedule of transfers on page 3. The total transfers are in line with what was approved for 2026 and 2027. But you'll remember when we adopted the 2026 budget, I started talking about needing to start moving the water plant. $2 million. I don't remember. There's a large chunk of money because we're building up not only retirement tenants, but also we're going to start taking on. We're going to have a significant bond payment every year for 40 years once the water plant is built. Because that loan is $30 million for the course of 40 years, and I think the amortization on that is like $110,000. So that's why the rates are where they're at. But we have a $2.5 million note in the plan in 2026 and 2027. So we took the water from the water transfers from zero up to $670,000. That's going into CIP water. So when that note comes due in March of 2027, we'll have those dollars there to retire as much of that bond as possible.
On the emergency fund, the balance,
Is that the fund balance? Yeah,
what did you say our goal was?
25%.
And how much of that would have been in, or when would we reach that?
I mean, we're really only going to be able to reach it as fast as we can reach it. I mean, we could levy a tax and get there in 2 years, but nobody wants to do that. So we're just continuing to be frugal with what, you know, so right, what's just whatever's left. We're just slowly trying to build it over time. Like I mentioned, the employee benefits fund is there. The bond and interest fund will probably get there in 3 years, but the general fund is going to take a while.
It's our stretch better than where we've been in the past.
We're better than where we've been in the last 3 years.
I'm just thinking about what the president is going through the plan for and not being there. So
I remember what it was when I came in the first time. It was way worse than it is now.
I think it's worth noting this is the first time we've ever been revenue neutral.
That's correct. Levying $90,000 less this year than we did last year.
Ordinance 3883 adopting the 2027 budget. City of Osawatomie.
that.
Got a motion by Council Chastain, a second by Council Lady Chilton to approve ordinance 3883 adopting the 2027 budget for the city of Osawatomie. Any other questions or comments from council? Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Councilmember Mason.
Aye.
Councilmember Dean.
Um,
Councilmember Davidson. Councilmember. Sorry.
Dean.
Councilmember Dickinson. Councilmember Timmons. Councilmember Bratton. Councilmember Philippines. Councilmember Copeland.
Motion carries. We'll move on to new business resolution 1391, authorizing the installation of Jefferson Highway route.
Jefferson already introduced some of the background on this. I know you guys are all aware of the Jefferson Highway industry with the community. What I want to answer questions on, if you have them, is location, costs, the rest of the things in the packet. And so, if you have any questions, I will go from there.
Where's the section?
So the proposal is two places, there's two signs, maybe three. One by the state hospital, one on First Street, and then if needed, one somewhere directing people to go down 6th, because right now the road actually shows them to go down 4th. And that's not the most historically accurate route for them to be taking. We think that that may have been built when 6th Street was under construction. And so at that point, we couldn't go on 6th Street.
I'll be quite honest, I'm depending on what it is to the city of the. That's Jeff. And the gentleman that was after Jeff, I don't know, kept his name, was talking about the roughness of the road. I'm inclined to say, you know, if we are going to dedicate this to the road, should that road be worked on and at least brought up to a little bit of better standard, or is that not a very good part of the road?
So a couple of things to address with that. First, let me make clear with the route. We're not encouraging people to go to the southern portion of the Jefferson Highway behind the state hospital. That section of the road is in that. But we don't want to encourage people to basically end up at a dead end where the side is. So the route is to encourage them to come in from the highway, they hit the state hospital, they turn down Osawatomie Road, and then they actually end up on Old Casey to come into town. And then we want them to come over first and then follow from there. And most of the people who are traveling the Jefferson Highway, they're out looking at the closest they can to the historical route. They're not going to be bothered by the same thing here as much as we are, especially since it's original. And they are not going to be bothered by having to go back and forth, because what they're trying to do is trace the route in the way that they can. I do agree that the section of Osawatomie Road that's brick is in dire need of rehabilitation. But by rehabilitating it, we would take the historic pieces of it away. So it's kind of a this or that situation.
Is there stuff we can do to help with the drainage that he mentioned about how the water doesn't have anywhere to go? Is there things we can do at least to improve that?
We put in storm drains. There's not a lot of places for it to go.
Y'all fun. I'm better than
You know, the stormwater could be addressed by rehabilitating like foresting. We had a lot of stormwater issues on Brown, we had a lot of stormwater issues on 6. Yes, there's somewhere for the water to go, but the actual solution does need to be a capacity increase and to allow the flow to be unabated by the rain. We definitely go out there and see about doing some ditch clean out, but not all of that right away is actually ours either through the whole way. So there's some things that we can definitely look at through there. I will address that it is not a one-lane road. I have been over there. It is a very narrow road. When it was originally, the Jefferson Highway was actually brickable. And then the brick was put in. And so it's always been very, very stiff.
But over time, we could look at doing
For sure.
something, whether it be better shoulders, or if you had to share the road, but you're right. Take it all out, takes it, historic significance away.
And these are conversations that we definitely for. I mean, obviously, I would love to be able to take it all out and put in concrete, especially, with the traffic that comes into the state hospital. There is a highway spur in a way right there, and obviously there is industrial interest, in some of that land development, wherever that may end up being. And so having a concrete road there will serve the community better, but it does take away the historic aspect.
But it looks like our budget for this is less than 2,000.
Yeah, and that does include an interpretive sign, which is not tourism's goal, to put an interpretive sign up in the first round of signs. What we're really looking at is the smaller signs that I think most people have probably seen, that Jeff pointed out, on 169, kind of by Tractor Supply. And that's what we originally wanted to put up, the two, maybe three of those. And then at some point down the line, put up an interpretive sign that explains the history or override of the genders.
So am I reading this right? We have a surplus of money to buy this right now?
I would not say that it's a surplus of money, but there is money available in the tourism fund to cover the signs. There's also a couple different donations that we're working on. First, there's a $250 donation that will cover the cost of the 2 to 3 original smaller signs. And then there's potentially another $500 donation to help cover the cost of the larger interpretive sign.
So really those signs, and we just made this recap. Those signs are really just an indication that this is.
Yes, this is part of the route.
It's not something that continue to bring out. It's an identification that this was an original.
And there are quite a few people every year who are already using these streets, following this path without the signs there. And the sign is more just to give a designation that we're recognizing that the Jefferson Highway did come through the city of Osawatomie and that there was an impact from it for the city of Osawatomie. I don't expect simply putting the signs up to massively increase any of the traffic on these roads.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve, resolution 1391 authorizing the installation of the Jefferson Highway Rail.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Hennis, a second by Councilman Phillips to approve resolution 1391 authorizing the installation of the Jefferson Highway route. Any other questions, comments from council? Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Shafee.
Aye.
Councilmember Basic.
Aye.
Councilmember Dean.
Aye.
Councilmember Dick.
Aye.
Councilmember Hennessy.
Aye.
Councilmember Bratton.
Aye.
Councilmember Phillips. Aye. Councilmember Caldwell.
Motion carries. Looks like we do have an executive session for attorney-client privilege.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the city council recess in a closed executive session for the purpose of privileged attorney-client consultation with the city attorney pursuant to the exception of KSA 75-19B2. Closed meeting lasts until 7:15 p.m. and we'll resume here in Memorial Hall at 7:15 p.m. Also attending will be city manager representative.
Second. Got a motion by Councilman Dickinson, a second by Councilman Hennis to move into executive session for client privilege. Attorney-client privilege, start back up at 7:15. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Back into open meeting with no action taken. We're going to move on to council report. I'll start to my left. Councilman Shasteen. Or thank you for coming in. I do remember hearing and reading about Jefferson Highway when I was a kid. Yeah, that's around here. I didn't know where it went, but I heard that. Information informant. The more information we get, things like that around here. That happened back in the day. Young people will recognize how much world is people. Thank you. No report. No report. I will say, I noticed the work that I believe volunteers from the city did around the building that we're using as a temporary courthouse. Cleaned up, a lot of shrubbery and just cleaned it up quite a bit, made it a lot nicer. So thank you to them, employees and volunteers and time and equipment and work to do that. Even though we don't own the building, it does look a lot nicer than we're using. Thanks for that. I'm going to say that last week I did tour some data centers and drove by several, just from my own knowledge and my own opinion of what we've been hearing and seeing. And so it's very informative, and I'm glad I did that. I would suggest if anybody else would like to do that, point you in the right direction. That's all I have.
The only thing I would add is, we do have acoustic tile work. And, Boyd Bill, which is going to come in and paint is one of those 10 foot by 2 foot panels is, it's an inch thick and it's weighing 24 pounds.
And they'll hang from the ceiling.
They will hang on the walls, on the south, the north wall, the south wall.
Good.
And the east wall. So that hopefully will moderate some of the headwind here, and if it does not do enough, you can get.
Continue to try and make it better.
The color will be a American walnut color, so which is what the place code like people would. That is all I have.
Any other staff reports? We've got a motion. Second. Motion by Councilman Breton, a second by Councilman Shasteen for adjournment. All in favor? Aye.